Hey everybody, I am Erica Carlson bringing you Wright County Real Estate Update. It is Wednesday, so every week at this time I try to give you an update unless of course I get sick or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we are going to jump into the data that I think is the most interesting, whether you are buying or selling a house. And if you're wondering if you should stay tuned, if you're nowhere in the real estate market, I guess for me personally, yes, I would keep some level of awareness of what's going on in case this is coming down the pipeline for you, or just to have a general idea of how the real estate market is moving. Like I said, I really focus on Wright County, but I also compare it to Hennepin because it gives us, some awareness of kind of a slower moving market compared to a faster metropolitan market. Obviously, Wright County is very close to Hennepin. So as you let your eyes come down the column in terms of what has happened between these two counties, it's very interesting because this week, Wright County had a nice little bump up in showing activity. And what I mean by that is I look at the 250 to 500K home price range, again, just for the entire county. And I average that out from anything in that price bracket. How many showings per week per listing do we see? And it was 5 this week. That would have been average. So if your house was on the market, that's what you should expect. However, that data is a little skewed because something kind of pushed it up. Like, how were we at 3.5 last week and we bump up to 5? So you could say it's the better weather. For sure, that could be no holiday weekend. Maybe with school letting out, families are thinking about that this would be a good time to move. I know sometimes people intentionally are trying to plan around the school year ending before they make that move and get serious. So putting that aside, I have another theory that might be a little odd or out there, but there were some lake properties that were listed, especially in the Buffalo area around that 500 price point. And I'm wondering if that skewed our data a little bit. I'd have to really narrow down on those particular properties to see the showing activity, which is a little hard for me to just narrow in on very particular addresses. But there's a handful of $500,000 lake properties that of course would be very, very appealing to most of us to get a property at that price. However, some of them do need significant amount of work, which explains the price point. And then as you compare that to Hennepin, there's not that much of a difference. They had 6 showings per week versus our 5, and which is a decline for that county while we had an uptick. So I was just trying to understand why ours would go up and Hennepin went down, and I could be wrong. So I think we'll see what happens next week to kind of see where this trend line is headed. I'm not surprised to see that Hennepin ticked down or kind of stayed the same. That seems about the right amount to me. So the Wright County is kind of throwing me a little bit. And then average days on market, 40 is average, 20 is median. Taking about a month to sell a house can be very typical at this time of year. As we head towards July 4th, if you have not gotten your house on the market, I would encourage you to go now, because as we head towards the 4th, we'll be becoming more of an equal buyer-seller market. There'll be less of it heavy-handed towards the sellers. So if you're a buyer, you might want to hold off until after July 4th. However, let's look at our inventory. So now we're on a new screen. We can see June 14th on there, which is obviously today. And we have 509 total properties to purchase with no contingencies. And as we've talked about in previous weeks, I've also added the no contingencies versus the contingencies because I didn't think it was fair to look at everything when not actually all of that was really able to purchase. So you can see that number is starting to drop down back to where it was 2 weeks ago. So it's not a significant change by any means, but it looks like it's just dropping a tiny bit. So I think we'll continue to see that trend line come down. However, until we get to next week, it's really hard for me to know and predict. Pendings went up, no surprise. Remember, these are ones that, maybe just went under contract in the last week or two. Those contingencies were removed and now they're into pending. And then closed had a nice little bump up. Again, no surprise. We have to anticipate the things that went under contract in April and May. Now we're into almost mid-June, or we are mid-June, excuse me. And of course, a lot of these houses are closing out. So again, the green dots on the map represent the The map was much further zoomed out, so I know that's why it's a little bit harder to read, but you can see where the properties are for purchase. And then in terms of absorption rate, which is a fancy way of saying if no more houses were listed starting today and we had to sell everything that was currently on the market, and then how long would it take until we ran out of all that inventory? So we're at 2.3 months, which is definitely still a seller's market. Again, compared to the last 2 years, not nearly moving at the same speed. We believe that the interest rates really made a few people drop out of the buying pool. If we can't afford a house when prices are staying high and interest rates are a lot higher than they were during the COVID period, of course, people can't justify having everything high. And no, I don't predict any sort of market crash anytime soon. And the reason real estate agents don't typically say a crash is coming is because we have no inventory. If there was a surplus in inventory, if builders were building out of control and there was an answer to the inventory crisis, we may be having a different song and dance. But it is not 08, 09 where we had a surplus of foreclosures. We have different lending practices, and that's why professionals, whether they're loan officers, real estate agents, title people, we just don't see it because where are all the properties to pick from? I know it feels to you anecdotally like I'm driving around and I see all these new houses going up. It's just not answering the problem of what we need the answer to be. This week I wanted to offer you something different, which is a home buyer's guide. I do have a seller's version of this as well. I just didn't have time to pull it together on the screen for you. If you want information particularly about this summer and how it would affect your home buying, I put a guide together for it's a little bit beyond the basics. I do have my smart home buyer guide, which you can download off my website, and I'll put that up on the screen in just a moment. This one is in particular for home buying for this summer, answering questions you may have. It's a slightly different twist over like a traditional first-time home buyer guide. It goes beyond the basics. And so if you click the link that I'm going to provide, you can check it out and see if the table of context appeals to you or not. A lot of this information I share on my business Facebook page, so feel free to look me up and follow along. I'd love to have you as a guest. In terms of my website and how you get a hold of me, my website's iHeartMPLS, short for MinneapolisHomes.com. I don't just sell houses in Minneapolis. I'm a Twin Cities metro real estate agent. I work with my husband. I have a fantastic lender referral for you if you need to get pre-approved. If there's anything about the home buying and selling process I can do to help you, I'm absolutely here. Give me a ring, send me a text if you have a quick question. Let me know how I can support you on your journey. That's the entire use of a real estate agent, as we are here to support and consult you on the process, not just to open the door and show you houses or tell you how much your house is worth. There's so much more to it. I so much appreciate if you are here to the very end with me. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next Wednesday.